Welcome to sportsfaningy.blogspot.com. Today's one-on-one is with linebacker coach Darrell Wilson. Darrell, thank you for being here with us. Tell us a little bit about, being a linebacker coach here at the University of Iowa.
Well, one, it is truly a privilege because since Norm's been here, there's been a history of linebacker play, very good linebacker play, and hopefully we can keep that going with the next season.
Now, another one of your other duties here as far as linebacker coach, you do coach a couple of phases of the special teams. Talk about those phases and the importance those have to the overall team play.
Lester and I work with all the kicking game, but I'm basically responsible for punt return and kickoff coverage. Kickoff coverage is probably 95% attitude, 5% strategy. So you're always looking for those guys that are hungry, no regard for their body, and just ready to fly around and make plays. The punt return team, we're always looking for a guy, one, to catch it, who can field it, and then we have a great group of guys that bust their tail to help create yardage for our returners.
Now, one of the little things that many people probably don't know about you and it makes you unique on the staff is that you actually played football up in Canada. Talk about a little bit of your experience as a Canadian football player and then the differences between, of course, the American and the Canadian game.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to play in the CFL 5 years with the Toronto Argonauts, and field is a lot bigger. Since I've played, they've shortened the end zone. The end zones used to be 30 yards deep. I believe they're 25 yards. It's much wider, and then you have the 12th man on the field. So when I first came back down, I had to make sure I didn't diagram that 12th guy.
How much of a difference was it to go from the American game to the Canadian game?
Probably the biggest difference is the motion. In college, in American football, you can't motion towards the line of scrimmage. You can go sideways. In Canada, the receivers would bow back and start full speed at you to the line of scrimmage. So that's probably one of the difference in the rules. There are 3 downs instead of 4. And then again, you had the 12th man, which was usually another receiver and another defensive back.
Now, your college days were spent at the University of Connecticut, where also our head coach came from, spent his college days at. You overlapped by maybe a year or two. Talk about how you got to know him there, maybe an influence that he had on you there. Talk about a little bit about your UConn experience with him.
Well, Kirk was a senior my freshman year, and what happened, I was second team corner going into camp, and the corner in front of me broke his hand or finger, and I ended up moving up, and I had a chance to start as a freshman. Kirk was our senior captain linebacker, so I was kind of that starry-eyed guy in a huddle looking at our senior captain, and just as he is here, was always that leader, played hard, good leadership quality, and I'm not surprised he's done well here as a head coach at the University of Iowa.
And that was probably one of the things that led you to Iowa, was because you came here from the University of Wisconsin. There was an opening here in Iowa City. Kirk probably looked to you, and it was a quick drive down 151. What was about Iowa City that was so enticing to you?
Again, and I talk about it, Leroy Smith, who played here when I was a high school coach in New Jersey. I coached against Leroy, and when he came out to the University of Iowa, I followed it a little bit at that time. And then being in the Big Ten and following Kirk's career, you knew a lot about Iowa City, and being on that other side of the sideline, that's not always fun as an opponent. So I knew what the University of Iowa had, and fan support, and just the tradition, and having an opportunity to work with Kirk was great.
Now, speaking of Leroy, I mean, New Jersey, New York area is a big area of recruiting for the University of Iowa. I know you can't get into too much specifics, but, talk a little bit about players that you have brought in to Iowa from the New Jersey area that have went on to excel here.
Well, you've had just recently Sean Green, and then Albert Young had a great career. You had Harold Dalton, who played quite a bit for us at one point. And we still have a number of young guys that are in the program now that hopefully will make their mark for us.
And how do you sell someone out of New Jersey that transition to Iowa City? What do you tell them to make that transition here so much easier?
I speak about the people. I speak about Iowa City and how it's a welcoming community. The football program speaks for itself, obviously, and then the success we've had with a lot of the young men that have been here, and then again being a former high school coach in the area, knowing the coaches. Now I'm at that age where some of those players that I coached, they have sons. So that networking, that connection really helps.
All right, well, I appreciate it. We're going to finish with our lightning round of questions. First answer that pops in your mind, just go with it, all right?
Okay.
All right. Athlete you idolized growing up?
Jack Tatum.
Favorite team growing up?
Oakland Raiders.
If you weren't in football, what would you be doing?
Track.
A time in history you wish you could have witnessed?
Civil rights.
DH or let the pitcher hit?
DH.
Favorite type of music?
R&B.
Finally, best thing about Iowa?
The people. Community.
All right, well, thank you very much, Coach Wilson. We appreciate it. Join us again on sportsfaningy.blogspot.com.